and share my screen. Okay, I hope everybody is doing good. So I believe this is our fifth webinar series. This is getting started with Google Sites. I've been using Google Sites much more than I have in the previous years, and it has gotten much better and easier. So I'm going to just dive right in. So the first thing I want to talk about is its uses. So everyone wants to think of a website as a, like a class website, but it really can be used in many other ways. So let's just take a look at my, some options are student portfolios. It is a great way to kind of track students' work over time. So it's a good way for them to showcase their work. I know there are some districts that really have students putting their work in a Google site, and it carries them from year to year. It could also work really well alongside a Google Classroom. So not everything do we always want is in Google Classroom, and Google Classroom sometimes is not very visual. So it's sometimes nice to kind of have them work alongside each other, where you're putting YouTube videos and student work in. You could embed Google Forms, and you could link to Google Classroom and vice versa from Google Classroom to Google Sites. So it's a great way to kind of complement each other. You could also use it for units of study. So maybe you're having an entire unit on something in science, and so that entire unit would be put into a Google site. A Google site could be a single page, or it could be multiple pages. Again, it could also be a class website. It's super easy to use. It could be used for a book study. So maybe you're having some type of book study within your classroom or grade level. I am working with a teacher right now who's using Google Sites for a science fair. So the students are doing their own work and using Google Slides and Google Sheets, and they're going to do presentations, and they're going to upload it all into a Google site. So all the work is in one spot for everybody to see. Could also be used for school-wide activities. So maybe there's some type of school-wide activity, and it could give all the information with links, videos. Last year during COVID, that's how we kind of did our school yearbook. So everything about the ceremony was put in, and it was really nice because all the clubs got to put in stuff, and it could be a very collaborative thing. So we recorded the graduation ceremony, all the different speeches, and now the students have it forever. So it's really nice, and it could be on their phone. It doesn't have to be a book. So a really nice way to showcase work. Clubs, great way to kind of promote clubs and have students in clubs and whatever. So clubs is a great way, and student presentations, sort of like what we did with science fairs. You could do a student presentation, and maybe they're having their own Google Classroom site that they can put all their different work for some type of presentation or research project they're working on. Okay, so how do we get to Google Sites? It's not quite as accessible. In fact, I'm not even sure if it's in the waffle down here. I'm going to take a quick look because that's not normally how I get to it. It's not in here easily. If you go into New and you scroll down to More, you can get it to it from there. Okay, so I could also go to sites.google.com, but this is usually the way I go into it. So I'm going to click in here, and it's going to bring me to a blank Google site. Now, Google Sites is part of the G Suite or Google Workspace suite of apps, and everything is stored. It saves as you go, and it's stored in Google Drive, just like all the other apps. So this is kind of the basic of what it looks like. So I'm going to go very slow because I know this is new for a lot of people. And I'm going to kind of just show a few different things and how you could do it, show you the different bars, and then I'll kind of customize it a little more from there. So let's start up on the top. Top is the name, just like all the other apps. So we'll just call this PTC test site. Okay, and at any time you could change any names. So along the top up here, it shows up over here on the left, undo and redo. So if you do something that looks kind of funky, you don't want it, you could always undo and redo it again. This is a preview button. I use this all the time to see what my website will look like along the way. So if I click in here, it kind of gets me into this view where I can see exactly what it looks like. We don't have much on here right now, and I can look at it in different ways. So this is what it looks like on the computer. I could click over here. This is what it would look like on a tablet, and this is what it would look like on a phone. So you kind of can get the views all the different ways depending on what you're using it for. Okay, and then you X out to get out of that view and you're back in editing mode again. Okay, so I am constantly going in here to see what things look like along the way to make sure it looks visually appealing. This is more of an unpublished site. We're not going to kind of look into that quite yet. What's great about this is I can collaborate and I could share with others. So similar to the sharing, I can change my sharing abilities. Links vary. I could click on change. Right now, it is not published, so it's not put out there for everyone, but I could share the link to this before it's even published. So right now it's a draft and it's restricted, but I could change it that anyone with a link will be able to see it even though it's not published. And then the published site would be public. Okay, so you have some different permission sharings that you have the ability to change. Okay, the settings gear. So you have some options in the settings gear of what you want to do. So the navigation, right now the navigation. So once I add new pages, where is the navigation going to be? I could have it on the top or on the side. And once we add some pages, I'll kind of go back in here and show you what it looks like. And the color. Okay, transparent, white or black. I never change this. I just leave it at transparent. You can add a logo. So if you have a school logo or a class logo, you can upload it and it kind of adds it up here onto the corner. And a favicon, which is kind of like a mini version of a logo. You could add that as well. Viewer tools. So I'm kind of going more in depth than I probably want to start off with, but I'll just kind of show you what they are. Info icon. So the site info icon is in the lower left of your published site, shows specific details. I personally never use this for anything. I've never had to use it for anything, but I think if you wanted more like a footer type stuff that you want on the bottom of every page, that's what you would toggle on and off. Anchor links appear when the site viewers hover over headlines on the page. Again, this is something I just never changed, so I can't even give it too much detail about that. You can add a custom URL if you wanted to use your domain name. Analytics, so you could actually track how many people are going to this website. So that's kind of a cool feature. And an announcement banner. So an announcement banner kind of goes along the top of the web page with some type of an announcement. And you could change the color, show the banner. Okay, right now we don't have anything on. I'll just kind of maybe put it on there quickly to show it to you. We'll put the banner in a color yellow and say this is a banner. All right, so then you can kind of get an idea. And you could have links and other stuff that you might want to put in here. Okay, so you could say this is the banner. Now you know what the banner is. To me, this is a little distracting, so I think I'm going to remove it. But that is what a banner is. Okay, let's see. We're going to toggle it off. Okay, that is a banner. Okay, over here, 3 dots always means more. So I'm going to click in here. Version history. This is great because I'm going to kind of show you a little bit. I'm going to get this out of the way. You can have collaborators in here. So it'd be nice to have version history. When we did the graduation website at the end of last year, we had many people inputting. Each person was in charge of different areas. So it was a great way to kind of collaborate the work. So version history could be important. Again, We don't have anything in right now, but every time you'd have somebody who would add anything to it, the date, the time would show up and who made any changes to it. Okay, and you could always revert. So sometimes if things go wacky and you want to revert it to something that you did 2 months ago or whatever, you could always go back to what changed and then restore this version. I'm not going to do that right now. And you could also name different versions. So you could click on here and name a version as you go along the way. You don't need to have many copies of everything anymore. Okay, once I was done with my site, I would want to click on publish. Okay, I'm not going to publish it now, but it usually gives a name, but you can change it. So the website generally goes sites.google.com/view/ whatever the name of the Google site is. Again, if you went into settings, you can customize that more if you want to. Okay, so I can now change this website and call it something else, Peconic Teacher Center or whatever I want to do. I'm just going to leave it as we go right now. Okay. That's basically it for the top. There's not a lot of like the menu bars like we see in sheets and docs and slides. All right, so you kind of start with a canvas. Move myself over here. Actually, I might just minimize this. You start with a blank page and you just kind of add along the way. So this is considered your header. Actually, I'm going to start over here. Sorry, I'm going to backtrack. Over here to the right is where everything kind of happens. You have insert, and these are things that you do to add content to your website. You have pages. Right now, home is the only page, so we're going to talk about adding pages in a minute. And then you have themes. So there are different themes that are based in. There are Google Sites templates that are out there, so you could Google them and just start with a template that's already there. I personally like to start with a blank slate when it comes to websites, kind of customize it along the way. So this is just simple. Okay, I could change to Aristotle, Diplomat, kind of change the look of it. Within each theme, you could change the color. Okay, so I could change the color of the theme, and I could also click on this little paint can and have lots of options. So if your school district or your class has a specific color that you want to work with, you could just put that number in and use that. There's also some ability with the font style, classic, light, and heavy. A brand new feature to Google Sites, which to me was an amazing new feature, is you didn't have a lot of ability to change the different font types and sizes. It was based on these themes. So now you have a lot more flexibility. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in a minute. So we're just going to keep it nice and simple. And maybe what I'll do is just change the font. And I'll change the color. Okay, so that is the themes. If you decide you're halfway through, you want to change your theme, you can change it. It doesn't mess up too much, but I try to come up with my theme to start, and I leave it that way throughout. Okay, so let's go now to pages. So right now we only have the home page, but if I click on this plus sign on the bottom, I have some options. I have new link or new page. So right now I'm going to click a new page and I'm going to title it. So I'm just going to say this is going to be a website to kind of talk about Google products. So maybe the next one is Google Docs, and I'm going to hit done. So it's automatically going to go to that page and it's going to kind of embed it underneath. Okay, so I could keep adding pages as we go very easily. Okay, so if I click up here, I'm back at my home page. If I click here, it'll go to my Google Docs page. Over to the right, once you create a new page, you have the 3 dots, which means more. I could click on here and I have some options. I could make that my home page. I could duplicate the page. And what I like about this is before I add a bunch of pages, so I created a website for my district with a bunch of tech tools, with a lot of tutorials and tech tools, a lot of stuff was in there. I wanted each page to look the same. So I started with one page, kind of like my template. make sure it was exactly what I wanted. Then I just duplicated that page. So if I click duplicate, I now have the ability to change the page. And maybe this is going to be Google Slides. But if I had a bunch of stuff on here, everything would just be duplicated. So I would hit done. We obviously don't have much here, but Google Docs now looks the same as Google Slides. Okay, again, if I go back to the three dots, I have other options. I could look at properties and change the name. Okay, say if I decide that's not the name I want to have it. I could add a sub page. So a sub page would be embedded inside this page. I could hide it from navigation. So maybe I want to have a specific site, but I don't want everyone to be able to see it, but I want to keep it in there. So that would be hide from navigation, or I can delete that page. So I'll do that right now. Okay, so easy, very simple to add pages, and sub pages are in here. Okay, so let's say now we're going to go back to home. We're going to go to my home page and insert. So we're going to go through all this, but I want to start all now over here. This is your header page. Every time you create a new page, you get a header page. I could change the image and I could change the header type. So if I click on header type, I can make it a cover. So that kind of makes it nice and big, okay, depending on what you want. Or I could have a large banner. So the banner is nice and big. A smaller banner, or a title only. So again, personal preference. Usually on a first page or a home page, I would have some type of a banner, but maybe for sub pages, I might just have the title only. So again, it depends on your look and what you're using the Google Sites for. So if I decide I wanted to have it for a banner, I can now put the arrow back and I could change my image. So I could select an image and I can upload an image. So if you are pretty tech savvy, you can create a header using many different things, Google Drawings, Canva, Adobe Spark. So there are headings out there that you can kind of design and customize your own, but these are a bunch of ones that are kind of built in. So you can find one that you like. There's a gallery. You could do it by URL. If you copy a URL, you could do a search, okay, within Google or Life. Okay, those are usually copyright free, so you're good to go. I could take it from my albums or from my Google Drive. So lots of ways to bring them in. So I'm just going to grab one of these to kind of give it a nice look. Again, they could be simple or complex. We'll just kind of add this one in here. I click on it and I hit select. Now I have a nice background. It does actually, if you look on here, it makes it a little more readable, because sometimes, you need to be careful when you're working on the color font on top of a photograph. It kind of blends in. So it kind of adjusts it a little better. If you could see when I'm hitting on it, it goes a little lighter and darker. So you have some options with that. So that is what the header does. Now up here on the top, you could see, because I had it on the top in the settings, all of my sub pages or other pages are going to go along the top. I could also change it and have go it along the left side as well. Okay, so now let's look at what kind of content can we add. So we have a text box. We can add images. We can embed. So we'll talk about embedding in a few minutes. And we could add anything from Google Drive. Additionally, even to make it a little simpler, if I double click anywhere on here, I get this little wheel that pops up. Same thing as if I was grabbing it from over here. I just saves me a little bit of time going back to the sidebar and grabbing it. I could get an image. So I could click on image. Not sure what I have. I could do a Google image search. So we're going to call it Google. We'll just see what comes up with Google. There we go. We'll put a nice little Google logo in here. I'm going to click on here and insert. So it's going to pop up. All right. So my image is in here. You notice I have all my boxes along the outside, these little kind of dots. I can click anywhere on here and drag and move things around. It kind of works in these little grids. So it keeps it that size, but I could click on it. I would always drag from a corner because otherwise it's going to look distorted. And I could click and I can make it smaller. And it'll lock it in, or I can go larger and I can move things around depending on what I'm looking to do. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit bigger. Again, you notice when I clicked on it, some things popped up. So this is cropping. I have the ability to crop. If I click on here, I could uncrop it. Okay. I could link. So what I could do is maybe I want to click on a link and link this to, let's say, Google. So if I click on link, I could link it within the Google site itself or to a website. So if I go www.google.com and I'm going to hit apply. All right, so now it's linking. So again, I always try to go to my preview. If I click on preview, I kind of cut it off a little bit. So I might want to fix this. But if I click now on here, it's going to bring me to Google because that's what the link I put in there. All right, so we're going to go back. I'm going to click out of here. So it's super easy to be able to link. As you noticed, it was a little strange looking. I'm going to kind of pull it out a little bit so it gets the whole thing, because this way, when I look at it, it was getting cut off. So I just fixed that by pulling it off. Again, it is not perfect. This is not a WordPress or maybe Wix, but it is super easy. I use it all the time. Okay, so that's bringing in an image. Again, I could have done it by clicking here, or I could double click and get it from there. This is upload. So this is something that you want to upload from, maybe your computer has some stuff that you want to upload, or you have a document that you want to upload from here. Or my photos, I could click on here. So little different than using Google Drive. Okay, Drive, very simple and easy. It automatically pulls up my drive. This is everything in my drive. This is everything that's shared with me. You're going to be careful if you're taking documents that are shared with me and you don't own them. You might have issues with other people viewing it. So just be kind of mindful of that. Recent. So recent, maybe something I just did. So here is my presentation for Google Sites. I could double click. There it goes. It's in. Super easy. I could also do a search right from within Google Sites. So this is what it looks like when I bring in a presentation. This is kind of how I talk about how it works really nicely alongside Google Classroom, because I could take my presentations for maybe a unit or something else and bring it in, but then I could also link it to my Google Classroom assignment. So a lot of kind of going back and forth, but this is much more visual looking than Google Classroom. So just to kind of show you what this looks like in preview mode. If I have 2 pages, I could actually go through my Google Sites right from here. I have all the abilities. I can make it big. Okay, so there's my presentation in full form. If I escape, now I have it back in this form. So I have the ability to kind of embed Google slide presentations nice and easily. If I want to move it over, I could click and move it over. I could also click on the corner, drag it, and make it bigger. Okay, so again, I could bring in Google Docs, I could bring in Google Sheets, I could bring in graphs, ton of stuff you can easily bring in. Additionally, I could change the layout of certain things. So these are like templates. So let's say I wanted to bring in some photos with some sayings underneath. I could click here and it kind of brings this in ready to go. So I could bring in I could click on the plus here. It's kind of like a placeholder. I could click on the plus. I can upload an image. I could select an image. I can get it from Drive. I could bring in YouTube videos. So let's just say this is a science. Well, this is a Google, because we have this Google website. I'm going to go to Google, and I'm going to go to YouTube and say Google Sites tutorial. Obviously, you would want to vet this before you brought it in, but now I just brought in a video and it's built right in. I could click the text is right here. Google Sites. I could also add something else if I wanted to. I don't need to, which brings me to fonts. As I said before, you were not able to control the typeface or the font for each one of the sections other than through the theme. Now you have the ability to do that. So these are the theme. So these are the theme fonts that were built into it. But now I have the ability to go in and have tons of different fonts to change what it looks like. So it makes it a little more visual than what was once there. You could also click on more fonts and bring in a ton of other fonts that aren't already built right into this Google Sites. Okay, I could change the size, bold, italic, underline. I could change the text color. I could link text to either other pages within this Google site, or I could link it to a website somewhere outside. Alignment, numbering, bullets. I could also trash. So if I don't want this, I could hit trash and it's just going to get rid of that section right there. If I didn't want to do it, I could click on the undo. It's going to bring it right back. If I click on the three dots, I have a little more options. I can indent, strike through. I never do the code font, but you have the ability and you could clear all your formatting. So I'm just going to get rid of this for right now, just so you could kind of see. I'm going to delete that. Let's get this looking similar. Delete that. Okay, so now click on plus. Let's say I'm going to bring in another YouTube video and I'm going to talk about just Google education. Nope, I didn't spell that correctly. I'm just grabbing any video right now. So there's an overview, select. Okay, simple, nice and easy, gets brought in. G Suite. So really easy to kind of bring in video, bring in different things. Now that was the three going across. I still have the ability, if I don't want this, and I could drag it and move it out and move it somewhere else. Okay, let's see. So these are all different layouts. You do not have to use them, but you can. So let's kind of talk about some things before I look at some of the other options here. If you notice when I hover over this whole section, this shows up over here with a bunch of dots. So what this does, it lets you change the background for that section. So right now it's at regular. I can make it emphasis, which what it does, it kind of grade out this one little area. Or depending on the color scheme of my theme, I can make it a color. And it's only making that section a color. Okay, so it depends. I can make the entire thing change a color if I wanted to do that. I personally like to keep it nice and simple, or I can add an image that I upload or select from the background. So I'm going to go back to regular. I could also duplicate a section. So if there's a let's say over here, maybe I wanted to do, this was another video with some text and I want to duplicate this and change it. I could hit duplicate. Now it's going to duplicate it and bring it underneath. Okay, if I don't want it, I can just hit delete and it's going to delete that whole section. So you're kind of working in a little bit of like a grid. So now let's say I want to move this video section up above here. If you look, when I hover over, I have all these dots and I get this crosshair. I could click and hold it and drag it up and move it up here. And what it did, it just moved it above here. So I can move things around. It's not 100%, like it's not so easy to flow and move things around, but it is fairly easy to move things around. Okay, so that's a duplicate. So you can move things left, right, up and down. Again, this is a placeholder. But now let's kind of take a look at what we look like. So I'm going to go to preview. Okay, so here is my video. I could click.
Hi there, Jamie Keat here today.
I could play my video right from in here. If they click on YouTube, it'll go up and it'll open YouTube, or I could just make it full screen where they can see it full screen. So really easy to bring video in and take a look at it. Okay, here's my presentation. I showed you that before, nice and big. They can walk through the presentation right from there. Or again, we clicked on a link and it brought them to the website. Okay, so I think you're kind of getting to the basics of how easy it is to add content. All right, so let's look at some other content that we can have. All right, so these are the different layout. Collapsible text would be something, I'm trying to think where I've used it in the past. Let's say I want to have I'm doing a Google website and I want to have a Q&A. So we're going to call this question and answers. Actually, that would be the section. So I did not do that. Okay, so that would be the question. Underneath would be the collapsible text. Chrome. I'm just throwing something in there. All right, so that's sort of what it looks like. Maybe I want to give this a header. So I'm going to double click. I'm going to add text and I'm going to make this a title. And I'm going to say questions and answers. And it's a little big, so I'm going to go a little smaller. I can change the color of it to whatever I want. I could center this. Actually, and then what I could do is emphasize it. So I could have an emphasis. I'm going to make it a little bit bolder. I could change the font. I'm just kind of going, this is going to be really big, but you can see what it looks like. Now I could drag. Oh, nope, I don't want to duplicate. I want to click and drag and move it above here. So now I have question and answers. And if I click on here, then you have the responses. And again, I can change the font size for each one. So I did this in a website where they want to know something about a specific tool. I could have a Q&A section in there. So that's collapsible text. Table of contents is exactly what it is. You could have your different sections, sort of like a Google Docs, and have a table of contents where it kind of links to the different areas. There is an image carousel that I could add a bunch of different images, and it kind of goes in a carousel mode, and you have some options from within that. A button. I use buttons all the time. Buttons are like links. So let's say I want to add a button. So I'm going to click on button, and I want to call it Google Teacher Center. So I'm going to quickly do a search for the Google Teacher Center, which is a great website. One about Google. Here's the Teacher Center. I'm going to copy the link. I'm going to copy. Then I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to link with a V and insert. So what it does, it pulls up a button. Okay, and you can expand this to be as big as small as you want. You can fill it. You can have it as an outline, or you can make it just text. Okay, but what it is, it's a clickable button, which is a link. So I'm going to just say filled. I could go back in and edit it, or I could trash it. But now what I could do is take this and drag it. So maybe I want to drag it right below the Google button, and I have it there. So let's take a look at what it looks like. I scroll down. This is my button. It's clickable. If I click on here, it's going to open me up to the Teacher Center for Google. Okay. Again, some of this, all this stuff can be kind of moved around as needed, but you notice it's like a scrolling page as we go down. All right, so that's a button. Divider is just a line kind of used to divide, and you could take it and drag it and move it where you want it to go. If you wanted to kind of separate sections, it's like a faint line. A placeholder is just exactly what we saw up here. This is a placeholder. So let's say you're creating something and you're designing, but you're waiting on a photograph or a video. You could put the placeholder there so you kind of have it ready to go, but you wouldn't see it if you went to go view it. All right, so the placeholder does the same thing. If I click placeholder, I can make the placeholder bigger, smaller. If I click on settings, what is the placeholder holding? Is it any kind of content? Is it going to be an image? Okay, so you could kind of decide what it's holding, what type of file it's going to hold. All right, I'm going to delete this out of here, but that's what a placeholder is. YouTube, we already brought that in, but I could click on YouTube. I could do a search for a video, or I could just do a search from within here. So let's say Google Docs Classroom. I'm just grabbing anything to show you. I find which one I want. I click on it and I hit select, and voila, there we go. We got our YouTube video. A lot of times if you were doing directions to something, maybe you wanted to add directions, a screencast or a webcam, you can easily upload it to your YouTube and then bring it right in there. You do not have to have it in YouTube in order to bring video. I can also use Screencastify, and right from Screencastify, by clicking on my drive, I'd be able to bring in a video. So if I click up here, let's see, usually it's MP4. I do a search for MP4. So these are different types of videos, but some of them are screencasts. I could click on it and insert it. Okay, so this was not a YouTube video, but this was another video that I had. All right, so easily to bring in other videos other than a YouTube. Okay, so then we have calendars. You can click in if you wanted to embed a calendar. These are a lot of my classes. So holidays, we'll just kind of add that and hit insert. You can see what it looks like. And now we have a built-in calendar. So I created a website for Superintendent Conference Day as we started this year, and we had a bunch of live webinars. So what I did is I put all the live webinars in a Google Calendar. So all of them showed up here, and it was kind of live and is always constantly updated. And you could look at it in different ways, by the week, by the month. Again, let me show you what it looks like. Scroll down even more. So again, I could click on month, week, or whoever is looking at it could look at it different ways, and they could click and bring it in there. So you just want to make sure, I think one of the main things that you want to think about or always check before you kind of go live with a Google site is that everything that you're embedding in here, that you have the correct permissions. Even a YouTube video, you have to make it unlisted depending on who your audience is. You want to make sure that you have the correct permissions for your audience. Okay, so let's go down. I'll show you a few more things. A map. So I could click on map, and I love my maps. We'll be talking about that, I believe, next week. But you could bring in a map for an area. So we'll call it Baconic Center. Not sure if it's going to come up, but we'll try it. No. Well, we'll just go to Southampton. Let's see. Click on here. We now have a pinpoint with a map. I can hit select, and it's going to bring in a location with a map. Okay. Again, this could be a great social studies unit where you're bringing in different maps and pictures and then videos to kind of talk about it. Okay, so docs, slides, sheets, forms and charts is the same thing as bringing it in from Google Drive. So does the same thing. I'm not sure why they even have it this way, but I'll kind of show you what it looks like. If I click on Docs, it's just going to bring up all my Google Docs. And I'll kind of bring them all in just so you kind of see what it looks like when it's brought in. It's taken a second, I think, because we're on a meet. Let's see if I have anything. Here is something. Oh, here's the Baconic Teacher Center list of webinars. So I'm going to click on it. It was in a Google Doc, and I'm going to bring it in. This is a little wonky the way it looks. So I'm going to kind of show it to you. I would probably bring it larger. So I would drag, I'm dragging down right now using my, well, I'm using my trackpad, but it's going very slow because we're on a meet. I'm going to go a little bigger. So it's not perfect. Sometimes it depends on what we're doing with it, and it's going real slow because we are on a Zoom, so it's going a little slower. But so I'm going to try to get to the page. I'm going to show you what it looks like when you preview it. Again, you could be linking to a Google Doc or embedding the Google Doc. So it's sorry that it's going so slow. All right, so let's see what a preview, what it looks like. So when I go down, there's my map. Map looks nice and clean. I can change the size of that. Here is my Google Doc. So as I scroll down, you could see the whole thing. Okay. I could hover over it. If I click on here, or whoever is looking at that clicks on there, and as long as the permissions to that Google Doc was there, it would open up the Google Doc. But even from within here, I could be looking at the entire document. What's really nice about this is if I make changes to this Google Doc, it automatically changes it. It's a live document, automatically changes it right in Google Sites. There's nothing else I need to do. Okay, and again, it kind of works the same for slides. I kind of showed you this before, but I'll show you another one. I could take a Google slide presentation. I could find it. This was one I did last week. I could click on it, hit insert. It's going to bring it in. I could drag it. Maybe I want to put it side by side. I'm going to drag it up here, and it's embedded right in. So super easy. I love how easy it is to embed a Google slide presentation right into a site. Sheets. Let's see, I'm going to go down further. Again, I'm just keep going down and down as much as you want. It could kind of continue. I do not know how far it goes, but I could also be creating a new page. I haven't really brought up new pages, but I could be adding this. Let's say I'll go into pages. We'll go into Google Docs. Okay. Now I'm in the subpage Google Docs. I could get there from here. All right. So once it goes live, that's how I'll go into it. Maybe this header type is title only. We're not going to have anything else. But now I'm going to click over to insert. So now I'm going to start doing some stuff in Google Docs. So again, I could have brought in any of this stuff. Maybe I want to bring in something from Sheets. I don't know what I have in here, but we'll bring something in here. Here's an habit tracker. Here's a template of something that I have. It's going to embed it right in there. I'm going to X out of here. I have the ability to drag this, make it bigger if I want to. This is going to go slow, so I'm not going to do it too much. But again, I could change the size of it based on what I'm doing. This takes a little maneuvering, but we're going to just kind of bring it in here so you can see what it looks like. Right now, it's got a mind of its own, trying to adjust it. Okay, I don't know if I would do it that way, but there it brings in the Google Sheet and Google Forms. So I can go Google Forms and I could bring in, maybe I want to embed a survey right into the website, and I can click in here and it brings it in and it embeds it. This is a great way to check in with your students right where it's nice and visible. So I'll show you what it looks like. I'm clicking in. Okay, there's my sheets. We would want to make this bigger and check it out. But right now I could click and I could actually complete this Google form right from in Google Sites and hit submit. And there we go. So I can complete an entire Google form right from within this website. Okay, I think we're getting close to covering everything. Charts again. I don't think I have any charts in here, but I could bring in charts that were created from Google Sheets and have different kinds of charts, all that stuff in there. So that pretty much covers the basics. If I was ready to publish it, I can click on publish. Again, this is my website. This is what the entire website is. So I could click and kind of highlight this, and I'm going to kind of show you in the incognito window, and I'm going to click publish. Okay, now depending on your publish settings, now I have a little arrow here. I could publish settings. I could review my changes. So let's say I make changes after I publish it. It will show me what changes were made since the last publish, and I could republish it again. I can unpublish the website, or I can view the published site. So again, this is the published site. This is this page right now, but I can go to my home page where I have everything in there. Now I could scroll down. If you notice on my side, because it's published, I have this little pencil. That's because I have permissions to edit on here, or I was the creator. So I could click on here to bring me back into edit mode. And if you use Google Forms, it kind of works the same way. You can have the published Google Forms site, but if you click on here, it's called edit, and it brings me back into edit mode. So again, I could click over here. I can get my different pages. Again, if I had multiple ones, they'd be going across the top. I can access all my videos. This is my placeholder. This brings me to a link. This is a button that brings to a link. These are Google Slides that are embedded. I also have the ability to kind of use my different tools that I would right from Google Slides. This is my Q&A where I have my collapsible text. All right, so I can use that. Again, I could have changed the font and size of that. Here's more videos. Here was a video that wasn't a YouTube video, but one that I had created a screencast. Here is my calendar, maps. Here's more slides. Here was a Google Doc that was embedded in. I have the ability to kind of scroll through all the different pages that are in here. I think that's all we have on here. And go to my different sites. I also have a search, and I can see what comes up. If I go Google Doc, it's going to bring me to different things that have the word Google Doc, and this is a search right from within the website. So I think that covers a lot, definitely enough to get you started. This could be as simple as you want it to be. So if you want to just start with a single page and have it for a unit, again, everything could be so interactive. I could take anything and link it. And one thing I didn't show you, which I want to show you, is you could link things to other pages. So let's just say I'm going to click in here and I'm going to bring in an image of Google Docs, because we have another Google Docs in there. I'm just going to bring the Google Doc logo and I'm going to insert it. I have the ability to kind of change the size. We're just going to kind of make it a little smaller. It's kind of trying to do this on its own right now, and because I'm on there, so it doesn't look good, but this would be much better without a zoom. But I could click on it, and now I could click on link. Now, I could paste any link in here, but every page that I had would be showing up. I only have one other page, but I'm going to link it to the Google Doc page. So it's going to bring me to the Google Doc page and hit apply. So what happens now is if I click on this preview, and I scroll down to my new image, this was the image right here. If I click on it, it's going to bring me to my Google Doc page because I linked it to that second page. So I believe that is it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Google Sites is great. It's really easy to do. I highly suggest it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and stop recording.